Good morning, Jess.
Good morning.
I'm so excited to meet with you and hear about your work. As we've been talking to schools all around the state for the Indiana Comprehensive School Counseling Grant, the Mind Body Medicine program has come up on so many conversations that we are very grateful that you're here with us today to tell us a little bit more about that. But before we jump into that, can you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself? What do we need to know about Jess Yoder?
Sure. So my name is Jess. I work for the Department of Education. I have worked for the department for about 4 years. I was hired in 2018 when the Department of Education received the first Project Aware grant, which is a comprehensive school mental health grant. So looking at all 3 tiers of supporting students' social, emotional, mental health, and kind of looking at what does that prevention level look like from tier 1, and then what needs to happen when students need more intensive supports moving up tier 2 and tier 3. So obviously school counselors are involved in that, school social workers, school psychologists. It's kind of a comprehensive model that we are trying to lead here in Indiana. So in 2020, I went through 2 rounds. They have just a professional training program where you actually participate in their mind body medicine groups. So you just show up and you really are practicing mind body medicine. You're learning about it, you're reflecting on it. And then I went through a whole other training called Advanced Professional Training Program where I learned to facilitate groups. So when I say groups, that's kind of the traditional model that the center kind of advocates for their trainers to implement. So it's typically 8 to 9 weeks and 2 hours per week. And those 2 hours, I have only done them virtually. I know in the past, before the pandemic, they were mostly in person, but obviously they had to create kind of a system to do these virtually. But the first really hour of these groups is just checking in, getting to know each other, really just asking that kind of basic question of how are you in this present moment? Mm-hmm. That can bring up a lot of things for people. That can be a really uncomfortable question, just to check in with someone in the present moment, what's coming up for you. And then the second half is after you kind of check in and kind of get a basis of where everyone is in the present moment, you go into some of the mind body medicine strategies. You learn about kind of the background, the research behind them, and then you practice them together. And then you reflect on what they were like, what that might look like in your daily life. It is sometimes when I talk about mind body medicine, this group model, it kind of sounds like it's group therapy, right. And it's not. It is not. I am not a trained mental health professional. Not to say that a mental health professional couldn't facilitate these. Many do. What this is really just creating a community, creating a safe space for individuals to feel heard, but then also a safe space to kind of really actually learn these strategies that are evidence-based. Some of these are, mindful breathing, belly breathing, body scans, guided imagery, a lot of those traditional things that if you were to go to a therapist, you might do these, but you don't necessarily need a therapist to do them. They're pretty simple, right? Some of the hardest things are the most simple things.
Absolutely.
So having a supportive space to learn those and practice those is kind of what mind body medicine is all about in terms of the structure. I could go into a little bit more detail about kind of what is mind body medicine, what that is, and I'd be happy to do that if we have space. But that's really what you would learn in the 8 to 9 weeks.
That's excellent. So if I'm a school counselor and I think this would be a program that would benefit both my students and my staff, where do I start?
Yeah, so I would say there's definitely a secondary benefit for students. So they do have a youth model. I am not trained in that youth model. You could go to the Center for Mind Body Medicine and learn how to get trained in that youth model. But in my opinion, educators, I think should be prioritized. Educators, counselors, individuals working with youth, because I think we put the cart before the horse a little bit with social and emotional learning. Mm-hmm. And we are asking, I always use the analogy of we're asking, we would never ask somebody to teach Spanish who didn't know how to speak Spanish. We are actually asking many adults, myself included, to teach students how to regulate their emotions, how to be self-aware, and they have not been taught these things themselves. So I think that mind body medicine is a great place to start to help build that self-awareness, to help build that self-regulation skills for adults, so that they first and foremost can be the models for students. And just like I always make, I work for the Department of Ed, so I always make the kind of analogy of like, imagine trying to teach math without being able to like model how to like accurately solve a math problem.
Right.
Like it doesn't make sense. So like modeling is one of our best instructional practices. And so if we are being asked and encouraged to teach students social and emotional regulation and skills, we have to be the ones at the front of the room modeling those on a daily basis.
That's excellent. What else do you think we need to know about this process?
I think that the important thing to understand about mind-body medicine, I think that the word medicine can maybe scare people because everyone has complicated feelings, experiences with medicine, with healthcare professionals. So I think it's important to remember that kind of what is the basis behind this. So I want you to think about it in two different ways. So a lot of times individuals think, I have my mental health is up here, and then I have my physical health and it's down here, and they're separate. And we don't necessarily understand how they interact together. Mm-hmm. So I want to just encourage individuals who are considering this to think about like, okay, I have my thoughts, my feelings, my emotional experiences, my beliefs, my attitudes. And those can actually profoundly shape the way in which my body is functioning, the way in which, and that can be in a good way. It can, I can have optimal physical health, or it can work against me. Inversely, what happens in our bodies can affect how we feel with our mental health, right? How we feel, and even what we believe, right? Like if you are sick, think about the last time that you were sick and you just weren't feeling well, maybe you weren't sleeping well, like you're not going to feel on top of the world. Like you're not going to go to work and be like, I'm going to rock this day out. You're going to be really kind of down and out. I think it's really important for us to create space for people to understand the interaction between the mind and the body.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing that we like to do is make sure that we share resources along with these podcasts. So, we're going to follow up with you, and I'm going to want you to be able to provide like maybe the National Center's contact information, et cetera. Yep. So school counselors who are interested can get a little more information, but I would assume they could also contact you and you would guide them a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit, like I said, the center is doing some adapting. So I'm feeling a bit of like a liaison and trying to push them to make that happen because, I've seen schools like Hamilton Southeastern schools, Evansville, they are like diving in and doing these 16-hour mind body medicine groups. But it's also not necessarily the fastest model. Like there's only 6 to 8 individuals in each group. Like if you have a big district, it's going to take a long time for you to get everyone participating. So what does it look like to have further reach faster? I think that's a question that is still trying to be answered. So yes, I'm happy to be that liaison and try to get as much information to people who are interested.
That's excellent. Unfortunately, the counselors are going to want to know what the cost factor would be for them if they're going to be implementing something like this. Is that something you can even answer? Is that modifiable based on the district?
Yeah. So if you're interested in the professional training program, they do have the prices listed on the website. It is a 5-day, all-day training virtually, and it's over $1,000. So it's a substantial investment. But the prices are listed on the website. Okay. In terms of the 2-day training, I don't have that information. I think that, like I said, the center is still trying to figure out what that looks like in terms of their own financial models. But as soon as I have that, I will be getting that to as many individuals as possible because I know there's some money to be spent. And
that's awesome. Yeah. So that's what counselors that you've spoken to are building into their grant request is that cost of training. That's excellent.
Yes. Or I do have an individual here locally that is providing those groups. So this model would be, we're not necessarily going to have an individual in our district trained. We just want somebody to come in and do the groups and thus pay that individual. There are some people that I can connect you with who are doing that on a more of a small business model.
Great. Love it. Well, is there anything else we didn't talk about that you would like to throw in here?
I don't think so. I appreciate the space.
You have given us really good information. I'm very excited to do a little more research myself on this.
Yeah.
But just like I told you, we like to end our segments with some rapid fire questions. Are you up for that?
Totally.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you some really brief questions and you're going to give me your first thought.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. What song or activity helps you deprocess after a long day?
Walking or doing hot yoga.
Ooh, hot yoga, like that. What's the best book you've read in the last year?
Oh my gosh. I have this weird thing, like I don't remember the names of movie titles or books that I read. I enjoy them and I read a lot. Okay. Can I get 30 seconds to go into my Goodreads?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, it wasn't, okay. Actually, it was one of the most recent I read. Somebody's Daughter by Ashley Ford. It was her memoir.
Oh,
she's an author here locally, and she spoke at the Indiana After School Network, and it was just an amazing book.
Oh, sorry, taking a moment to write that down. Somebody's Daughter. That's great.
Somebody's Daughter.
What's the most unusual or unique item in your office?
Oh gosh, unusual or unique. This is funny. So I'm thinking about my home office when I work from home. Yeah. My 2-year-old daughter is obsessed with Buzz Lightyear. She was Buzz Lightyear for Halloween. So there's currently a Buzz Lightyear, like a pop-up tent spaceship in my office.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. What's the most unique job you've ever done other than the one you have right now?
Oh gosh, unique job. So I was a dancer growing up. I went to Purdue and I was in the Purdue dance team. And I don't know how I had the time to do this, but I did. But this is before I was married or had a kid. After I got done teaching all day, I would drive to the dance studio and I would teach dance until like 9 p.m. at night.
Oh my goodness.
It makes me exhausted just thinking about the fact that I did that. But it's unique because not a lot of people teach dance. So I very much enjoy that and I very much miss it.
That's wonderful. Well, you did it and I really appreciate you.
Of course.
And what I will tell you is that when we are all ready to post this, I will let you know and you can help us spread the word far and wide.
Thank you so much, Amy. Good to talk to you today.
You too. I will talk to you soon.